This right here is the HOVSCO HovGTRS, and in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it. Now, as you probably know, what I usually cover on this channel is drones, but when HOVSCO reached out to me wanting to send me this bike to make a review for them, I thought it would be something great I could integrate into some of my drone videos. You've probably seen me riding it in some of the active track tests I've done. It's a great thing to follow and film with all of my drones, so this is what I'm reviewing today. Now, as I mentioned, HOVSCO did send me this e-bike for free, and they do get to see the video before I post it, but all the opinions in this video are my own. So first up, all the specs and important things to know about this bike. It has a 1500 watt peak motor, rear hub motor in the back. It delivers 750 watts of continuous power and 1500 watts of peak power to accelerate or get up a hill or whatever. And all in all, I've got to say that is pretty powerful. On flat ground, it can get you up basically 230 miles per hour, and it can take you up hills surprisingly well. I'll get to more on that in just a minute. So 1500 watt peak motor, and then it has a 48 volt, 15 amp hour lithium battery on it, which has a pretty good battery life from all my testing. Now, I haven't been riding just miles and miles, again, more on this later, but all in all, it has done quite well for me. And then here on the front of the bike, there is a little LCD display that will show your speed, your pedal assist level, how far you've gone, your battery level, all of that good stuff. Nice little LCD display. Can be a little bit hard to see in super bright light, but generally works great. And then over on the left side of the bike here, we have our pedal assist up and down. And if you double click these, it will turn on the blinker. This actually has on the back here a brake light, tail light, and that also functions as a blinker. So your bike has a blinker. That is definitely a great addition. You can also turn on the front light here on the bike and turn that off as well. And I think there might even be some more menu functions you can access directly on the screen, but I haven't poked around with all of those. Also on the left side here, we have our throttle. It's just a thumb throttle, not a twist throttle. I kind of wish it was a twist throttle, and also I wish they had put it on the right side. I think I could change that around, just haven't gotten around to it. But I actually got used to it more quickly than I anticipated, but still I'd rather have a right-hand twist throttle, a lot more intuitive. If you've ever ridden any kind of other motorcycle or dirt bike or anything like that, it'd be a lot nicer to have a twist grip, but it certainly hasn't ruined the riding experience a little bit. I'll get to how well the throttle works a little bit more later. But then on the right side, we have a shifter for the pedals. This doesn't affect the motor because it's just in the rear hub. It just affects your pedaling, how geared down and geared up it is. That has worked fine for me. It's Shimano, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, brand, which is pretty popular for bikes. And then we have hydraulic disc brakes on both the front and the back. So that is what is on the handlebars. And then as far as how to get a hold of one of these, how much it costs, this bike right now comes in at $999 right at $1,000, but you can get $100 off with a code that HOVSCO gave me to share with you guys. There'll be the link to this bike and the code down in the description if you want to get it for a little cheaper. And it also comes with free shipping. You just get it shipped to you by UPS and then you assemble it. It took me an hour or two to put it all together. Not bad at all. And they also offer a 2-year warranty on these bikes, which I have had no opportunity to test out because I have not managed to break anything yet. So how has my experience been riding this bike so far for a few weeks? Well, all in all, it has been a ton of fun to ride. I've been taking it all over the place, mostly up and down our gravel road, but I've also taken it off-road on some really, really muddy roads through the woods, and it has handled all of that really, really, really well. Now, an e-bike is just not the greatest thing for riding muddy, steep roads in the woods because you're going to start to run into some traction issues and it's slipping all over the place and all that kind of stuff. But all in all, this bike has been a lot of fun and has held up really well. Now, one thing that I was a little bit concerned with when I was looking at this e-bike is how well it would be able to get up and down hills, because this is West Virginia. There's hills like everywhere. That's all there is hills. But yes, it actually can go up hills quite well. The steepest hills on our road, I can keep cruising up with just the throttle at about 13-14 miles per hour. And the little bit steeper hill behind our house, I can get up no problem if I give it a little bit of pedal power along with the throttle. Usually I find that traction and just the front wheel coming off the ground is what's going to defeat you on this bike before just running out of power, as long as you are pedaling along with it. So all in all, I've got to say I was actually impressed with its hill climbing performance. Now, probably for most people, you're not trying to go up vertical hills hills, but you might be riding a lot more on the flat and you might be more interested in the top speed of this bike. On the flat, I can get this bike up to somewhere between 25 and 30 miles per hour, especially if it's a very slight downhill, you can definitely hit 30. But even basically on the flat ground, I can totally hit 25 and even get on up 27, 28, 29, no problem. And up hills, it will go down to somewhere between like 13, 14, 15 miles an hour if it's a bit steeper hill. Now by default, this bike comes set up as a class 2 e-bike, which means it's supposed to top out at 20 miles per hour of throttle or pedal assist. And this is just a class restriction. Some places you can only ride class 2 e-bikes and not class 3 e-bikes, whatever the case, but out here, nobody cares. So you can also connect the HOVSCO app to the bike. They have an app that goes with it. That's the only thing I've ever used the app for, but you can connect it and switch it to a mode 3 e-bike, which technically keeps the throttle only speed at 20 miles per hour, but lets you pedal assist, pedal the bike up to 28 miles per hour. But in reality, the throttle just lets you go as fast as the bike will let you go. And I haven't seen any actual restriction. I've definitely gotten the bike above 28 miles per hour with just the throttle, so it can definitely go pretty quick. Now, as I've already mentioned, there are 2 ways to make this bike go forward. The first way is to just pedal the bike and it will sense that you're pedaling and kick the motors in and make you go, kind of a classic e-bike thing. And if you're not familiar with e-bikes, there's different pedal assist levels, 1 through 5. This basically dictates how much assistance it will give you, and I think also kind of the top speed that it will take you to. You can also turn pedal assist entirely off and then you just have to pedal it manually, but that's not very easy because it's a relatively heavy unit, as e-bikes tend to be when you have a big chunky battery and a big chunky motor on it. So you'll definitely want to ride it with some kind of pedal assist on. And then the second way to ride it is just with the thumb throttle here. To be honest, this is how I end up riding it most of the time because it's just a lot of fun. And again, you have pedal assist levels 1 through 5. This basically just determines what the top speed of the bike is and also how quickly it accelerates. Now, there are a couple things to kind of keep in mind with the throttle and pedal assist. Number 1, this thumb throttle, it's not a super smooth curve like, you know, typically on a dirt bike or something. When you twist the throttle, it kind of slowly ramps up the amount of power that you're getting. This also ramps up the amount of power, but it's a lot more electronic and you just don't have that smooth, fine control as you push the throttle down. You don't have as much travel between off and all the way on. And so it doesn't really give you a jerky start, but it does give you some pretty good acceleration at the beginning. And I actually don't mind it. I let a couple other people try it and they were like, I don't like how this throttle is accelerating, but I got used to it pretty quickly and I've just been riding it around and pretty comfortable with it most of the time. It can be a little bit hard if you're like trying to get started uphill and like trying to balance on it, but mostly it's been fine. Then the other thing is the pedal assist. That definitely does have a little bit of a smoother power curve coming in. It's matching your pedaling a little bit more. But one thing is, at really high speeds, just because of the ergonomics of this bike, and it might be because I'm relatively tall, it's not just the best pedaling ergonomics. I'm relatively close to the pedals. Again, I'm tall, and I have really long legs, so it makes it even more that way. But just the ergonomics of how close the pedals are to the front makes it so that especially at high speeds, you're gonna have a hard time really putting in a lot of force onto the pedals. You're gonna be mostly relying on the power of the e-bike, which is fine, but it can become just a little bit unstable if you're trying to pedal really hard at high speeds. And of course, it also depends a little bit the kind of riding that you're doing. The geometry of this bike just isn't like a mountain bike meant for trails. It's more of a moped style meant for riding on a road or a gravel road like this. It does great, but it's not really meant for super pedaling and jumping over things. And I was used to riding more mountain bikes before this, and so I kind of had that geometry in my head. But once I quit trying to fight it and ride it like a mountain bike, actually rides great, just more as a motorbike kind of riding. Now, battery life on this thing has been pretty good. I haven't done just a crazy long range test because I don't really have a great place to ride that's long range, but I've ridden all the way down and back this 1.7 mile gravel road. So that'd be close to 3.5 miles, and it only brings the battery down a little bit. And I've just ridden around the farm randomly here and there 4 days with it before I actually drained the battery. Of course, that's not just miles and miles a day. But all in all, I've got to say I'm pretty impressed with the battery life on this. No complaints there. And I've just had a ton of fun just riding it randomly around the farm if I need to get from point A to point B, even haul stuff. It's a great little bike for all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you can't haul a ton of stuff, but it does have this little back part right here. I hauled an entire come-along winch on here up to pull out a tractor the other day. And yeah, it was very nice. I didn't have to drag it all the way up the hill. Now, this bike is full suspension. It does have both front shocks right here and a rear shock right here. But again, this isn't really a trails or off-road bike. The suspension isn't really designed for that. Now, that's not to say you can't take it off-road in the mud. As you obviously saw earlier in this video, I've taken it all over the place in the mud. It still has some mud on it, and it does fine for that, but it's just not really built to be taking a bunch of crazy jumps and drops and that kind of stuff. That's not what it's built for. And I've got to say, the suspension is not the softest. On the website, it says this bike can carry someone who's up to 450 pounds. I do not weigh 450 pounds, and so the rear suspension is really stiff for me. Now, that hasn't been a major problem, but it would be nice if it was just a little bit softer and was actually taking out some more of the bumps. You could actually just swap this out with a cheap, softer shock, and you would get a little bit more absorption of those bumps. So yeah, all in all, what do I think of this bike? I think it is a ton of fun. I've had a ton of fun riding around, and I will keep riding around a lot even after all these videos are long gone. Now, is it perfect in every way? No, it is not perfect in every way, but it's a $1,000 e-bike. You can get e-bikes that cost $10,000. So you really can't complain for a $1,000 e-bike. So at the price point, I think it really does a very solid job. And I'm not the world's foremost e-bike expert. I haven't ridden hundreds of them, but I would say it's probably worth getting if you want a nice little e-bike to go cruising around, follow it with your drone. I think it's also great if you just want something that can help you, go out to locations to film with a lot easier. You can just throw your drone in a backpack and just go buzzing off to wherever you want to, rather than having to walk there, of course, provided that wherever you're going does allow e-bikes. So yeah, that is my review of the HOVSCO GTRS. Again, there's a link in the description where you can check it out, and a coupon code that will give you $100 off, which makes it an even better deal, $900 instead of $1,000. So yeah, thanks HOVSCO for sending this out to me. It's a bunch of fun. You'll probably see me using this in a bunch more videos. Yeah, that's it for this video. If you want to see drone content, which is what we usually do, make sure to subscribe to see that type of stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.